G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the new Thunder League P-51A. So the Thunder League P-51A varies a little different from the Apache and the P-51s, early model P-51s that we already see in the game, as the engine is significantly more powerful due to the fact that it is turbocharged. Now this aircraft, as far as I've been able to work out, is actually supposed to be representative of a prototype that was built early on in the development of the P-51s, as they were getting ready to start working on the Merlin engines. And there were experimentations done at the time trying to get more power out of the Allison engine, and experiments being done with the Merlin. Now, as we know from history, the Merlin won out in the long run. The main problem was not that anything was wrong with the turbocharged Allison. The performance of the aircraft was significantly increased with the addition of turbochargers. However, the Merlin was just better. Goddamn Yak 9s, go away. So, as I was saying, the Thunder League P-51A, it comes with a fairly wicked, fairly racy little paint job, which is appropriate, because this thing does feel like a racing plane. The P-51 itself is incredibly fast for a battle rating 3 aircraft. It really is. The Allison engine gets up and boogies when it's got some turbochargers on it. Its climb rate is incredibly good as well. Its dive performance is amazing. You can dive this thing out past 800 kilometers an hour. To keep that in mind, most of the new P-38s up at 4.7 and the new P-38K at 5.3 will usually rip its wings off at about 760 to 780, and this is a battle rating 3 aircraft that can dive past 800. But we shall talk about the P-38s another time. Overall, it sounds pretty good so far. The plane has great speed, excellent climb performance for a battle rating 3 aircraft, amazing dive performance for a battle rating 3 aircraft. What more could you want? Well, sadly, it's actually quite a lot. This is where the P-51 starts falling apart with me, and why it's an aircraft that I both enjoy flying and simultaneously am frustrated to hell with. The P-51A's roll rate at its best of times is incredibly poor. However, once you take it beyond 400 kilometers an hour, its roll rate becomes virtually non-existent. It's sluggish and heavy in a dive, extremely slow to respond to any control inputs at all, and worst of all, at least for me personally, is it commits the cardinal sin of any high-speed boom and zoom aircraft. It doesn't roll down its own center axis. The entire aircraft rolls around an area about the height of the pilot's head in the cockpit, which causes things like this. Now, this Yak 9 is about to maneuver to the left sharply. Watch the aiming cursor as I roll over, how much it gets off center. Now, I've been practicing to anticipate that, learning to position the mouse cursor while simultaneously adjusting the roll of the aircraft and controlling a little bit of manual pitch on my own in order to try and counter out that rocky off center as you go into a roll to follow a target. And even then, I still cannot keep the gun sights on the target during those kind of maneuvers. The core problem here is, in a roll, the aircraft rolls off center axis to the direction of travel to the aircraft, but it also rolls at a slight angle, which means performing a simple half roll to line up on a target that is maneuvering left or right way in a high-speed dive, which is basically a staple combat maneuver for every single high-speed boom and zoom aircraft in the game, will actually introduce both a pitch and a yaw movement into the roll on the usage of the roll keys, throwing the aircraft completely off aim. Now, this wouldn't be so much of an issue if the aircraft featured, a metric truckload of guns hanging out of the front of it, a lot of cannon, something incredibly high damaging, where it's really only going to take you one round to take out the enemy. Unfortunately, that's not the case. This aircraft only has 450 caliber machine guns, 450 caliber Browning M2s. Now, it does have a lot of ammunition, so it has a lot of endurance in a fight. It can keep firing and stay in combat for an exceptionally long period of time, but it's still got one of the lowest burst mass of any fighter in battle rating 3. Now, its last problem is its energy retention. It's not particularly great. And this causes a massive issue because the aircraft rolls off center axes and is very difficult to actually keep guns on target, especially if the target is in the middle of evasive maneuvers and knows how to maneuver against a high-speed aircraft. The P-51 will have to abort its dive and retake altitude in order to dive again. Unfortunately, its energy retention isn't high enough for it to ever be able to reclaim its previous start position, which means if you miss booming on a target more than 2 to 3 times, you're going to find yourself on the deck with your target without enough energy to get away. And why this aircraft does feature a more powerful engine, it is much faster than the previous P-51s, it has a much higher climb rate, it's still not fast enough to get away from most things it'll be fighting once it finds itself in this situation. The example here perfectly is the Yak 9K that is on my tail. I've made 3 passes at it, I've blown all of my energy trying to destroy it, I've never been able to get my guns on it the entire time. It continually maneuvers out of the way, there is an experienced Yak pilot flying it. Each missed pass on this Yak 9K caused me a net loss of energy until eventually I was at the point where I was at about the same energy state that he is. And at that point I had to start getting creative with flying it, and well, it's sort of worked. I've managed to run the Yak 9K out of cannon, but he is sitting on my ass trying to ram me at the moment, and I don't have enough power to be able to outrun him. Even if my plane was entirely undamaged at this point, I wouldn't have enough power to be able to get away from this 9K. It would be able to sit on my ass indefinitely. And unfortunately, that's where I run into the problem with this new P-51A. I quite like the plane. It's fun to fly, it really is. The camo's great, it's black and red, how can you go wrong? But actually flying it in combat, I can't help but think every single time that I put it into battle, no matter how good its speed is, no matter how good its climb rate is, no matter how good its dive rate is, that I would be performing much better in this battle right now if I was flying pretty much anything else in this thing's battle range from the US tree. Now, I'm honestly not entirely sure what happened here. I think the Yak pilot slowed down trying to get a ram and just messed it up. And the truth is he didn't need to worry. My engine had sustained so much damage at this point that even at 100% I couldn't get my nose off the deck, and I died just a few seconds later. So first place for the team with 3 kills, Rank Does Not Matter, Shadow Strike Streak X3, Multi-Strike X2, Final Blow, Terror of the Sky, and Balancer, 83,202 Silver Lions, but unfortunately I didn't manage to make it out of this particular battle intact. We also made it out of that battle with 5,435 research points, with a premium account active and a 10% bonus booster running on our Silver Lions. So its Silver Lion earnings are pretty good, and it is also a fairly good aircraft for getting a little bit of early on research. As an Era 2 plane, it'll be efficient at researching Era 1 up to Era 3. Anything beyond that, and it's going to get massive reductions in the amount of research you actually earn. But in the end, everything always comes down to the plane itself. And, well, I think I pretty much covered it fairly nicely in the video. I actually like the P-51A. It is incredibly fast. It is an excellent climber. I would have no doubt if there was a race event on that was Era 2, this would be the plane that I would bring into the event. All of its base performance is exactly what you would need in a racing plane or in an aircraft that is built for boom and zoom. That climb rate, that high speed, the high speed tolerance, you're able to get out to incredibly high speeds without tearing your plane apart, and that incredibly fast dive speed. Just the problem is that off-center roll. The off-center roll, the poor roll at high speeds, and the pitch and yaw that gets introduced every time you try and do a simple aileron roll to follow a target, that throws off your guns. This is the death blow to almost any boom and zoom aircraft, especially when that boom and zoom aircraft only has 450 caliber machine guns and you need to get them on target. You're only going to have a limited amount of time in a high-speed pass anyway. You need them all on target and firing accurately, and the plane just cannot reliably provide you with that. Once you take it the other way and go down to low speeds, the aircraft again performs extremely poorly. It can't control its own speed well enough to reliably perform an overshoot. Even a Yak 9K could just pull back on the throttle and sit behind me, and there was nothing I could do to get it to go past. And its control authority at low speeds is even worse than at high speeds. It's not designed to fly at those low levels, and if you get forced down into that situation, you are in a world of trouble, because the plane simply doesn't have the horsepower to get itself out of that situation. At that point, you need somebody to save you, or you need a hell of a lot of luck. Once again, as I said in the video, the major problem with this plane for me personally is it's not that I don't like it, it's not that I don't think it does certain things incredibly well, it's just that feeling of, if I was flying any other plane in the US tree at the same battle rating, I would be performing better than I am in this aircraft. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.